Creating UI with UMG in UE4. How many U's does it take? Find out that and more on this devlog. So we are now going to focus on some of the UI elements to test out some design ideas. UI is a really important component of game design that helps solidify the feel of the game. The ultimate goal of a UI system should always be to guide the player without them knowing it. It should serve up just enough information so that the player never feels lost, but also display it in a way that never overwhelms them. We are not going to get to that stage for a long time, and it will involve a lot of tweaking. But that is the quest that we are beginning to embark on now. Initially, I'm just focusing on the in-game UI, and not really talking about the menu system. All of these points can be made for the menu system as well, but for the first stage of the game's development, I think that the in-game UI is much more valuable in driving the feel of the game. But first, like I mentioned at the end of the last devlog, we have to fix that damn camera bug. So I just got done fixing the movement bug. Turns out I was being a stupid and was using input events rather than or input actions rather than axis mappings for my movement. So I have fixed that. I can use the UI even while moving, which I wasn't able to do before. So that's pretty neat. It's actually kind of fun to control a little sphere running around, but obviously that's just where the camera is currently focusing. So yeah, alright, now I'm on to doing some UI stuff. So I started to design the UI in Photoshop since I thought that would be the fastest way to do it. Already having a lot of experience with the program, but because UI has such a multi-tiered way of working, it was really clunky using the folder system in Photoshop and turning on and off and utilizing artboards and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to try out an app called Invision. Now this is a free app that I got put onto by a UI UX designer that I am friends with, that is an app used by designers in the product design and application development space. So it's supposed to be pretty easy to pick up and learn. I don't have any idea how to properly do UMG in Unreal, so this will let me separate the design and flow of the UI from the actual implementation of the UI. So let's give this a try, and I'll check in after I have something working. as you probably saw from the video, I went through a couple of iterations before settling on this one. It's a really basic UI, and there are a few things that I would probably do differently when I implement this into Engine. But I like this square and circle motif that is throughout the design. I think that it keeps it looking pretty clean without it being too modern. So I'm not yet sold on the grayscale icons. The reasoning behind it is that it lets the players focus more on the game world rather than focusing on the UI. Personally, that's one thing that I don't like about a lot of the tower defense games out there, is that they incorporate the same look of the game assets into the UI, and I think that that just makes it cluttered and hard to understand what's going on, and a bit overwhelming when you first start playing a game. I guess each to their own. This is personally how I like it at the moment, and I may change that sometime in the future, but for now, keeping it simple and easy to understand is fairly important for me. So the level of the flow of the UI is going to be pretty basic. The only real places that you need to interact is that you sort of have these drawers that give you more information on each of your resources, which will be used, I guess, probably in the more complex stages of the game where you need to balance the resources that you're generating. And then there's just a very simple build icon drawer, and then again, more information about the buildings, and then any upgrades that you want to put on the building. So that's part of that upgrade system. Okay, so I'm gonna now start researching ways that I can implement these things into Engine. Holy shit, there are no good UMG tutorials out there. It's now honestly about 2 weeks later. I thought I was going to have a video out 2 weeks in a row, but not a fucking chance. There really are no decent tutorials out there for learning how to do UI in UE4, or at least not that I could find. Sure, there are plenty of one-off inventory or HUD or countdown timer tutorials, as if that's all games are made of. Instead, if you want to create a modular button class, reusable UI assets, fucking forget it. Anyway, rant over. So in my typical pattern of bumblefuckery, I did a 180 on the icon idea I just spoke about, and spent some time creating icons more along the Battle Chasers Night War vein. Partly because that's the other extreme I keep jumping to, and partly because if I had to watch another tutorial about making a game over screen, I would probably get a game over screen in real life. But I enjoyed the break of just making some art. So, not sure how long this video is now. There should be some footage playing in the background to show the state of the UI. After some timely advice from a friend, it's time to focus on making the game fun and go heads down into gameplay mode. Which is what I'm going to do now. I have some extra time off over the Easter break, so hopefully that should translate into some good progress on Towns and Towers. Thank you for watching. I'm going to get the fuck back to work and catch you next time.